I was born in a small, very religious city in Iran called Qazvin, perhaps the third most religious city in Iran. And I was brought up in a family that was, my father was highly educated and he was a physician. He was really well read. He had dreams bigger and larger than the Iranian society. He became my big idol. I left at the age of 17 to come abroad together with my sisters to study abroad because my father had a fascination with the Western culture and he wanted his daughters as well as his sons to be educated. But it was never planned for me to stay the rest of my life. So I came and studied at UC Berkeley for few years. The revolution happened. I'd gone to visit a few times, but basically what happened was the revolution sort of created this big divide between myself and the country and my family, whom I didn't see for 12 years. And that became the pivotal matter in the foundation of my feelings and thinkings in my work. And so ever since then, it became this series of question and answers and ways for me to be able to confront my obsession with the idea of home, the absence of home, the loss of home, and creating a work that is not really autobiographical, but raises a lot of questions. I mean, now I've lived longer outside of my country than I've lived in Iran, and I've learned to be a nomad. I live mostly in New York now, and I guess this is more home than anywhere else. But I'm hardly ever here. I'm often in the Middle East, but not in Iran. I work a lot in Morocco, in Egypt, in Turkey. So I've learned to work in countries to make believe that is Iran. I've learned to be a complete Westerner and yet complete Easterner, and be able to sort of navigate emotionally, politically, geographically in that way. So it's been a way of life, but I cannot say that I have this absolute sense of home. It's always on the go, and there is a kind of sadness about that. But there's also very positive aspects of that, which I've learned to embrace. I am within a very large Iranian community in New York and all over Europe when I go. So I'm not detached from Iran. It's just that I don't physically go back to Iran. I have to say that emotionally I feel very Iranian in the sense that there's a great expression that you can take an Iranian out of Iran, but you cannot take Iran out of an Iranian. And I feel emotionally grounded in that culture. But yet when I am among a lot of Iranians, especially those who just come from Iran, I realize that I'm so different than them because my adult life, my young adult life and adult life has been spent most of the time here in the West. So I have this level of independence and way of lifestyle that doesn't quite match the Iranian lifestyle any longer. So that I am very conscious of. And it's really a mystery why I became an artist, even to myself, because I had never even stepped into an art gallery or museum in my childhood. I didn't even know anything about art. There was no one even in my remote family had any artistic inclination. So I think subconsciously, well, for me, at first, it was a romantic idea of becoming an artist. Even when I entered university, it still was a romantic idea. But in terms of what are the deeper, more subliminal, urgent sort of tendency for myself to be an artist, I really feel that this goes back to our relationship to poetry and mysticism and the idea that so many Iranians reach to their imagination to survive, and not only the political upheavals, but the more existential issues in life. And I think for me, art, it just happens to be visual, but it's not that different from what most Iranians really feel so rooted, which is that poetic language and that idea of finding an expression that allows you to transcend the banality of everyday life, that I think so many people from Iran feel so connected to. And I think for me, it's more of a philosophical and poetic relationship as opposed to art within that kind of art historical context, because I don't have any relationship to that Eurocentric art history that, even when I went to the university, I never felt an affinity with that history, because for me it was too foreign, and eventually I abandoned art. And when I came back to it, it became a very original approach to it. Art for me is a place where my most inner and outer worlds connect. It's the only place that I could be most truthful and most profound, and at least I could try to be. And again, really facing issues that it's not only about me or affecting my life, but happens to be also affecting others, that may be the questions of doubts and fears and anxieties, hopes and dreams, all of those issues. So within art, I am able to really express myself. Well, some things change as I change, as I become older, or as my concerns, some of the most existential issues change. My art changes. My relationship to my country changes. I seem to have passed that point of nostalgia. I'm working in subjects that has nothing to do with Iran, where before it was more obsessive about that profound separation between me and Iran. I moved on from that because I think I got really exhausted from sort of always remaining in that level of nostalgia. Now I am also considering making work about the American culture. So my point of view has changed because my life has changed, On the other hand, certain things become very consistently the same, which is the way in which my own personality, my own nature as a human being is directly reflected in the work that I do. It's always the voice of the woman. It's always a voice of a person who's very conscious of her own strength, but extreme fragility. And in all my work, I see this kind of contradiction between fragility and strength. So this seems to be perpetually there.